Hi guys, I'm Elena.
And I'm Chelsea, and Miss Mystery Productions proudly presents Macabre Manifestations, a paranormal series which will be released in 2 parts. Part 1 will always be the history of the location, the supposed hauntings, and all of that good stuff. And episode 2 will actually be Elena and myself going out to the field and doing our own paranormal research. This way we can determine what's real, what's fake, and everything in between. So be sure to check it out. Episodes drop every single Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
For our very first episode, we are going to be talking about the historical Greenwood Cemetery.
Let's get into it. Formed in 1880, Greenwood Cemetery is the oldest cemetery in Orlando, Florida. As a matter of fact, it was the first cemetery that ever called Central Florida home. Originally, the cemetery was known as Orlando Cemetery, and it was formed by 8 local residents who all pitched in to purchase 26 acres of land near what is now downtown Orlando. To those who live or who have been to Orlando, you might just recognize some of the names of the original 8 owners. W.R. Renault, C.A. Boone, James Delaney, James K. Duke, J.H. Livingston, Nat Points, Samuel A. Robinson, and I.P. Westcott. Back in the 1880s, Orlando didn't have any formal burial grounds, and they didn't have any systems in place to help keep track of the dead either. In order to help keep track of grave sites, the 8 men purchased the land from John W. Anderson for only $1,800. The creation of the Orlando Cemetery helped to implement better record keeping. This way graves wouldn't get lost, and it created a place that people could go to pay their respects to their loved ones. Eventually, it was renamed to Greenwood Cemetery, and it is now a total of 86 sprawling acres, broken into various plots and sections. Greenwood Cemetery is the final resting place of many individuals that helped shape Orlando into the city it is today. Currently, the cemetery is run by the city of Orlando and is open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay, wait. They bought 26 acres of land for $1,800?
Right? Like, you literally, that's not even a 1-bedroom, 1-bath shoebox apartment at this point in time. So could you imagine 26 acres?
You know what I could do with
$1,800?
Yeah, you know what I could do with 26 acres for $1,800? I could build my dream home and have all of the fur babies that I could have.
You could.
Yeah, I could.
If anyone's good at math, because I sure am not.
I'm not either.
I would love to know, like, how much did that 1,800 come out to per acre?
Oh, yeah.
That should be easy, right? 1,800 divided by 26?
I'm gonna let you take this one. I'm not very good at math.
If any of you want to do the math, I mean, I know we're capable, independent women who can do this math, and I will do it, and I'll get back to you guys. But if any of you want to beat me to the punch and let me know in the comments down below, I'd love you forever.
But it is still a steal of a deal. I mean, you cannot find property like that nowadays. I mean, a 1 acre here in Central Florida can go from like $50,000 to $100,000 for 1 acre. Some, like, not even full acre lots will go for like $50,000. Like, no, that's crazy. I mean,
I guess that's the 1880s for you.
Times have definitely changed.
They sure have. Greenwood Cemetery is a beautiful and expansive cemetery that's close to the downtown area of Orlando. It can be found off a quiet residential street and is a quick drive to the Orlando Executive Airport and both I-4 and the 408, 2 major highways that run through Central Florida. The cemetery backs up alongside the 19 acres of the Greenwood urban wetlands, which helps to create a serene oasis. However, those who visit Greenwood Cemetery would argue that the beautiful grounds are also some of the most haunted. There are countless reports of apparitions, strange shadows, ghostly orbs, laughter, and disembodied voices. Some people even claim that there are strange smells in certain hotspots of the cemetery.
So, to be honest with you, I would love to see like an actual apparition. Like head to toe, real. Not like a little hand, like a full body.
So you're not interested in like jumping out and getting you?
Absolutely not.
We're looking for a body.
Yes. Listen, it's going to be a little spooky regardless, but I'd rather see the whole thing if I'm going to be like a little shivering in my boots compared to just a hand going, hey, how are you? Ba-bam.
I don't know what you're talking about, because if you see anything, we all know you're turning around and you're running. So don't even lie. Don't even lie. You'll see, trust me.
Yeah.
She is, no. But it would be cool to see a full body apparition.
See, I'm a jumpy person in general. Like, you come, like, if I'm walking down
That's
the
an
hallway
understatement.
and I don't see you, but you see me, I'm going to jump. Like, it's going to freak me out. I'm just jumpy in general. So, of course, I'm going to run the other way. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, I think I'll run and then I'll be like, hold on, wait a minute. I got to turn around and see what that was. And then I'm going to run again, probably.
So she fell in a haunted house last year at Halloween Horror Nights
Oh my God.
with fake monsters. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy that.
Brendan literally carried me out of that house. Yes, he did.
But I will say, going back to what people are claiming that they're seeing, I think the most interesting thing is that people are reporting there's actually smells in certain areas. I don't know how I feel about that, because you got to think, we're close to a downtown area.
Yep.
It's a residential area. What are these smells? Are they around the perimeter of the cemetery? If so, it could be weird gases from the urban wetlands that are over there. It could be scents coming from some of the highways or the roads.
Yeah.
But if we're talking like, I don't know, if there was a tombstone there and it was a baker, and every time you walked by, that particular plot smelled like a bakery, that would be interesting.
I would be okay with smelling the baked goods, but smelling somebody's trash that they left outside for 3 weeks, probably not. You know what I'm saying? Because it does back right up to residential homes.
Literally.
Like, if they're mowing the grass that day, it could smell like grass or gasoline or anything like that, weed eating, stuff like that. Or if somebody, like I said, doesn't put their trash can away and it just sits out there for weeks.
Well, on the bright side, at least if you live in that residential neighborhood, at least your neighbors are pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Unless they're doing a swinging wake, for all I know, in the middle of the night.
That is true.
You never know. There are multiple sections in Greenwood Cemetery as well. There's a military section, which is home to those who fought in the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Many people who visit this particular section of Greenwood claim to have seen soldiers dressed in full uniform, but these soldiers vanish into thin air just like that. Another section of Greenwood Cemetery is home to victims who were lynched back in the 1920s. Julius July Perry is one of those individuals who was killed in one of the worst incidents of racial violence in recent history, the Ocoee Massacre. Greenwood is also home to a few of the Pulse nightclub shooting victims of 2016. There are 4 victims who now peacefully rest in a plot just for them. 49 young trees were also planted at Greenwood, representing the 49 individuals who tragically lost their lives. Another section is for those who died while at the Sunland Hospital just up the road. Sunlands, which we'll be covering coming up, was the site of absolute atrocities and neglect for those patients in their care. Babyland 1, 2, and 3 of Greenwood Cemetery is the final resting place to children under the age of 5. Babyland 1 and 3 are especially active areas of the cemetery. People report things ranging from the sounds of children laughing and playing to people feeling tugs on their clothing, almost as if a small child was trying to get their attention.
That's kind of crazy about the Babylands and how active they are because, I have a child. And so tugging and mommy and laughing and everything, I mean, that's common in my house.
With having kids, and if you think about it, when you're around a little kid and you're having an adult conversation, and the kid's trying to get your attention, what do? Mom!
Yep.
Mom! And they tug on a shirt. So the fact that people are feeling like tugs on their clothing,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
it's like, that very well could be the spirit of a child because I'm an adult.
Yeah.
When I need to get someone's attention, I'll go, Elena! Elena!
I would probably do as I do for my son. That's not my name anymore today.
Yeah.
No. But I mean, it's so sad. Obviously, we'll get in when we get into the Sunland episode. But all those babies, I mean, the laughter, and you can still tell that they're still like alive. Like they feel like they're still alive. The laughter and doing what kids do, and in general, they're just there.
Because in Babyland, there is a lot of the children who died at Sunland. And there's a section for Sunland, those who are a little bit older as well. But in the section of Babyland, a lot of them are from Sunland. And those are the ones that you can look at the grave markers.
Yeah.
And the date of birth and the date of death are the same exact day.
Yes.
Children were being born and died. Now, of course, it's not just the victims from Sunland. You can still purchase a plot.
Yeah.
God forbid you ever have to encounter a tragedy like that. So it's not just victims from them, but a lot of the grave sites there are the victims.
Yes.
Which is wild.
Because you'll see the ones, like she said, the Sunland ones where they're like born and then died the same day, but then you also see the other ones where, they're actually like, there's life to their gravestone as a sense.
There's like toys and stuff, and I don't know if it's reassuring to see like, okay, people are coming out here and they're putting toys for their children.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also a little bit macabre in the sense of like, it's beautiful that they're putting toys out here for their children. But when you're looking at like these very modern toys on grave sites that aren't that old, it almost strikes a chord where it's like,
Oh, for me, 100%.
oh, it's awful.
I mean, I could not imagine being a mom. My son is my life. Like, I couldn't imagine. Like, I pray for that every day, I just couldn't imagine having to go through something like that.
The suffering that those families are going through. But maybe for them, it is reassuring if they're there and they see that a toy has slightly moved, or maybe they hear a little laugh when the wind blows that reminds them of their baby, So it's not all negative, but it is definitely interesting that you get a lot of very childlike instances that happen in that particular section.
Yes.
Just like it's interesting that in the section that houses a lot of the war veterans, people see soldiers in full uniform. It's not just some Joe Blow walking around.
No.
They could still be there protecting their country.
Exactly. I mean, that's all they know. And if they die doing, serving their country, that's, I feel like if, obviously, I can't feel like, because that's not me, but to come back or walk around in just your uniform, it's like a respect thing, I guess. Like maybe they're like, I died this way. This is the way that I'm going to carry on the rest, of my afterlife, as those ones that have seen them in full uniform in that section of the graveyard.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
There are many historical figures that are buried in Greenwood Cemetery, including senators, House representatives, former mayors, and even a baseball Hall of Famer. For those of you familiar with the Orlando area, some of the famous last names that can be found include Paramore, Carr, Gore, Beecham, Hand, Bumpy, and Tinker. However, when it comes to Greenwood Cemetery, there are some lesser-known individuals who are known to haunt the grounds frequently. One particular spirit is that of Fred Weeks, a businessman from the north. The legend goes that Weeks had purchased some land around the cemetery, trying to use it as an investment opportunity, only to realize that he had purchased unusable swampland. Unable to get his money back for the land he bought, Weeks decided he wanted some sweet revenge. Weeks bought a plot of land by the entrance of the cemetery and put a tombstone up, which had the name of the men who wronged him. The tombstone was also inscribed with a biblical verse from Luke 10:30. A certain man went down to Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves. Clearly, this was directed at the men and their thieving ways. The three men bought the land back and quickly removed the tombstone, which bore their names and insinuated their dishonesty. Holding a grudge, Weeks wasn't satisfied and wanted to make a further statement, which led him to buy another piece of land in the cemetery about 100 feet away from the original tombstone. And this is where he built his family mausoleum. It's also inscribed with the same quote from Luke 10:30. There was just enough room left for Weeks to add the names of the three men, but rumors have it that the families of the three either chiseled their names off or threatened lawsuits to the Weeks to scare them from inscribing their names in the first place. Many visitors of Greenwood Cemetery report that Weeks' spirit is still there, unable to let go of the scam, even in the afterlife. Many people claim to see an apparition of Weeks standing outside of his mausoleum, watching over his investments.
Okay, that is crazy. That... One, it is unfortunate, and you shouldn't scam anybody.
Correct.
But I feel like he took it a little too far. I mean, I would feel uneasy if, obviously it's not as bad as this, but if I like took a pencil from you and then I didn't return it, and then all of a sudden you put my name and scoring me on a tombstone.
But at the same time, and I don't know how things were back in the day,
Yeah.
but now there's a thing called a due diligence period
Oh, yeah.
in which the potential buyer can actually go and determine if that property is suitable for its intended usage.
Yep.
So I understand he's from the north, but like at no point in time did he think, I wonder if I can even use this land before I spend all this money on it.
Oh, I know, because I understand it was way back in the day, but I mean, there's got to be something to help with figuring out what the land is and what you can and can't do, because they were building buildings all the way back till, decades and decades and centuries ago. So when he would have bought that, there had to have been something or someone that could have went out there and be like, listen, dude, yeah, this is not for you. You should not get this because you can't do nothing with it. But instead turn around and put a tombstone with the men's names on it.
That is the definition of petty. Petty, 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 petty.
Crazy.
But you said you wanted to see a full body apparition.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see Mr.
Maybe
Weeks.
Mr. Weeks might just want to show his little body off to you.
I mean, I haven't done anything wrong to him, so it'd just be like a nice, like, hello, because I would not have a conscience to do something like that to somebody, because what if those men knew what they were doing? They're like, well, yeah, we bought this land, but we can't really do anything with it. Let's just sell it and see what sucker buys it.
They could have had a bad investment,
Yeah.
turned around and said, hey, let's profit off someone else's misfortune. But they must have picked the wrong guy if Weeks is still holding a grudge to this day in the afterlife.
No.
The definition of petty.
Yeah. Mr. Weeks.
Another well-known paranormal hotspot is the Wilmot Mausoleum. The Wilmots were a well-known family who made their fortune in real estate that called Orlando home at the turn of the 19th century. The family was also at the center of a tragedy in which Fred Wilmot Jr. drowned as a child. On June 1st, 1930, Mrs. J.W. Wilmot took her grandson, Fred Jr., and his friend, Frank Pounds, swimming at Lake Lucerne. It was a normal day of swimming and fun for the pair of friends, both of which were only 5 years old. After swimming for a while, Mrs. Wilmot called for the boys to come back in so that they could leave. But the boys begged and were eventually allowed to swim for just a little bit longer. The two boys climbed up on a boat and jumped off. But unfortunately, they dived into water that was too high for a 5-year-old. Both boys began to sink due to the force of their dive, and Mrs. Wilmot began to scream for help. A group of teens who were also at the lake dove in to try and help bring the boys back up to the surface, but it was too late. Both boys had drowned. The Wilmot family mausoleum actually rests at the highest point in all of Greenwood Cemetery and is home to Fred Jr. and both his mother and his father. People report an uneasy feeling at this mausoleum and, spoiler alert, we felt it too. Oddly enough, people claim to see the spirit of a man who appears to be wearing a military uniform. Nobody knows if this mystery man has any ties to the family or not. Maybe it's a soldier from the military section looking over the family who suffered a massive tragedy.
I mean, that to lose both boys, that is a massive tragedy.
And how bad does the grandma, Mrs. Wilmot, feel? Not only, and I don't want to say she's responsible because she's not.
No.
But you let your grandson and your grandson's friends. So not only did you suffer a tragedy that day with the loss of your grandchild, but now you have to call another family and tell them what happened to their little boy?
I'm sure it broke her heart, and the fact, it's like a double breaking heart. Not only is she finding her grandson, but the fact that she has to call to let the other boy's parents know that he's gone too. It's hard enough losing your own flesh and blood, but having to make those phone calls, that is a hard phone call to make. Believe me, I have been in that situation. So it is very difficult. And I mean, where it's at is the highest point, and it is amazing to know that a military man does look out.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, maybe is it a wayward soul who felt the tragedy and wanted to be there maybe to stand guard. Maybe he felt like it was his civic duty to be there to protect the family that's in there after all that they've been through.
Maybe.
Or could it just be a random spirit who was like, I'm tired of hanging out with these guys. I'm going to go check and see if I can find somebody else I can party with instead.
I like it up here. The view is better.
Yes. The views are spectacular at the top of this hill.
Oh, but that is so tragic to not only lose one little boy, but a second one, and then having to do what she had to do.
Absolutely awful.
That'd break my heart.
Being that Greenwood Cemetery has been around since 1880 and was the first cemetery in Orlando, there's a lot of history that lies behind its wrought iron gates. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's no denying the historical significance of Greenwood Cemetery and those who reside there. For those curious about the realm of the supernatural, there are plenty of reports of ghostly sightings. With that said, be sure to like, subscribe, and tune in next Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to watch Elena and myself investigate the famous Greenwood Cemetery in Orlando, Florida. We'll see you guys then.
Bye.